time for us to chat with James Mennie, reporter, columnist, and editor at the Montreal Gazette. James, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Joanne. How are you?
I'm very good. We're getting ready to kickstart the long weekend, but we have to discuss. We have so many things to talk about. Let's talk about this Quebec Constitution. First of all, this was the big story.
Yeah, but they want it to be a big story, but it's not a big story. And in fact, the only reason I mention it is when you finally get the thumbs down from the Bloc Québécois, you've pretty well hit the bottom of the barrel. And quite frankly, Yves-François Blanchet, the head of the Bloc, is essentially saying what everyone else who's not a part of the CAQ is saying, which is that when you make a constitution, you don't have a little meeting amongst yourselves in your treehouse and say, okay, this is going to be it. Especially because you're creating the impression that if a party puts together, a political party puts together a constitution for a province, that means the next political party can turn around and say, no, we're going to do it this way. A constitution is supposed to be a document that transcends partisanship. It's supposed to be a real blueprint for the society that you want to have in Quebec. So the question we have to ask ourselves is why? And the answer, of course, is the CAQ is in such deep trouble they need any kind of distraction they can lay their grubby little hands on. But here's what gets me in all of this, Joanne. Imagine if you own a business and you have an employee and the employee is not working it. And the employee basically, it's not just working, the employee is completely incompetent. Here's the problem. You can get rid of the employee, but you have to give them 1 year's notice. Mm-hmm. That's where we are with this government. We know this government is going to be out of a job as of, I think it's October 3rd or
it's certainly
October 4th.
It's trending that way, yeah.
It's trending that way. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's rare that you see polls that say not only will you lose, you'll be wiped off the map. Mm-hmm. But all that said, we are stuck with them for a year. They know they are not going to. If they're lucky, if all the planets align, they might end up being the official opposition. But the fact is, everything they do now is honestly the work of a lame duck government, and that's what really makes me nervous. Because they could turn around and say, you know what, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. We like the idea of this. And if somebody wants to get rid of it, they'll get rid of it. But between now and October of next year, we're stuck with some stupid law on top of all the other stupid, petty, vindictive, Anglophobic, xenophobic laws that they have adopted to appeal to their base. And they don't seem to learn from anything. In the meantime, in bits and pieces, we're finding out beyond this distraction, this constitutional distraction, this dog whistle identity politics distractions, we're finding out that this government lost us all kinds of money. Yep. We're finding out, and not just Northvolt and
CAQ.
Even CAQ. And now today we have another one. I don't know if you saw that. Recyclage Carbone Varennes was a company that the Quebec government, they put in $226 million of support. The feds put in $400 million. Yeah. There were cost overruns, Joanne. Guess what? They sold it to an American firm for $17.5.
It's, you know what it is, James? It's so interesting because it's almost as if they're dealing with monopoly money when they know it's not monopoly money. And the thing with the Constitution this week, listen, I went to law school. I studied the Constitution. I had exams on the Constitution. You're not going to tell me these people don't understand the nature of what the Constitution is. And it's just like they're throwing everything out there, as you said, like the pots and the pans, just so we won't notice the rest of it, right? But you are right, James, that they may try to get some sort of things through in this last sort of moment of their political existence, for now at least, right? So
for now, unless we get a surprise around Christmas time when Francois Legault takes a walk in the snow and says, you know what, I want to spend my time watching tennis.
I was going to ask you, do you think he'll take a walk in the snow?
Oh, I've been saying that from the get-go. I think I'm one of the first people who have said that he's not going to hang around. He's not going to hang around. He knows it. He has a huge ego. He has a Trump-like ego, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow,
but the fact is, he would rather resign and be able to blame everybody else but him than go down and then be remembered as the guy who led his party, his creation to it was a marvelous thing. He pulled the party out of the air 8 years ago, but guess what? If it turns out to have been the most devastating political defeat, guess what people are going to remember? It's not going to be the creation; it'll be the destruction. Unfortunately, that's the way life goes. And I think Legault knows that, and I think he knows that. After politics, he's not old. I mean, he still has some life ahead of him. Maybe he doesn't want to go down as be remembered as the guy who drove the party off the cliff, a la Thelma and Louise, because he didn't know when to leave.
Yeah. So you're saying you think that he'd rather sink the ship, that he would maybe sink the ship.
Well, he'd rather abandon ship and let the crew go down with it, I guess, or maybe let the crew suddenly turn themselves into a bunch of independents, or create. You know what they do? They leave the party, right, and they form these kind of like coalitions of independent MNAs, right? Mm-hmm. But this is it. But you know what? How bad is that? Because the CAQ, really, take away Francois Legault, the CAQ's not really about anything.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Other than keeping Quebecers scared and passing laws that focus on, immigrants or Anglophones or somebody who's perceived as the latest boogeyman in the closet.
Yeah, there's a lot of otherism going on there. Okay, we have to talk now. I'm so curious about this. In your notes you sent through, we have a brand new entry that will likely join the ranks of the Cavendish Impossible Project sweepstake.
The Cavendish extension, I think it's going to join the ranks of the Impossible Dream Hall of Fame, which is today Ensemble Montreal. And I don't doubt their goodwill. I think they really, really mean it. But you know what they're going to do? They are going to bring the Empress Theater back to life. Now, I got to tell you,
say again. Sorry, James, I didn't hear you cut out there. What did you say? What is that?
They're going to bring the Empress Theater back to life.
Yes, we're talking about that actually in a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's a lot of us out there, a lot of people listening to this show right now who don't really call it the Empress Theater, who never knew it as the Empress Theater. They knew it as Cinema 5. They knew it as this icon, this cultural icon out in the West End. I grew up on the South Shore, but I literally saw a movie every day and twice on Sundays, going into town, going to Cinema 5. And when it finally shut down and the decay began, it was so crazy because I thought, how could this happen? What's happening to Montreal? But look at this. This was this gem, and now it's being neglected. Here's the thing, though. In the meantime, I moved to downtown Montreal. I lived in downtown Montreal for 10 years, and I lived out on West Sherbrooke near Outwater, and I would walk to the Gazette. We were on St. Antoine back then, and every day, Joanne, you know what I would do? I would walk by the Seville Theater. And I went to the Seville Theater when it was an actual theater, when it was a famous players theater. I saw the Rocky Horror. I paid full price for the Rocky Horror Picture Show and was still in general release, okay? And the thing was, you had a perfect example of the malaise that grips Montreal.
Yeah.
When you saw that place begin to deteriorate, it was like really turn into this corpse. And the thing was, I would literally walk under the marquee every day. And at that point, they had these big steel girders supporting the marquee to keep it from crashing down on people. But I can tell you, the girders were supporting it, but the thing was being held together by pigeon poop, right? And it took forever until they finally said, okay, you know what? Let's just raise the damn thing. And they threw up condos or whatever. But this is it. This is the problem with Montreal. They are so worried about, alienating some, heritage pinhead that nothing ever gets done, and these things crumble. And I hate to say it, but as much as I'm sure they're working with goodwill, I also see the Empress sharing the same fate with Seville.
And it is interesting, James, because it's one of these things, we've all seen it, we've all walked in front of it. If you've gone to it as a movie theater, if you've gone to it as whatever, if you've had use of the actual building, it is such an example. It's much like the orange cone is a symbol for Montreal. This is a symbol of how the city is mismanaged and that things are just left behind to rot while bureaucrats argue. And
an absolutely gorgeous building.
I'm looking at a photo of it now. I remember it so well.
A gorgeous building. And I remember you would take things like that for granted in Montreal because the whole city was beautiful. And then it started falling apart because there were so many committees and so many discussions and so many conferences and blah, 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 blah. And in the end, ils n'en fait rien. So you know what? The thing's falling apart. So, listen, I wish him luck. But this is a problem. You talked about, as you say, quite rightly, symbols of Montreal, the Empress Theater, the Seville. Who knows? Jamais 203.
Yeah, and the other thing is that because right now the two parties, right, they have totally different plans for what's set to happen with the Empress if they can actually get it. By the way, who knows what's going on in there? The state of the building. Let's see what the engineers will say at some point.
Listen, they had a fire or two. They had some flooding in there. I seem to recall there was real damage to the actual guts of the building. Mm-hmm. In the end, are they going to do the same thing? They're going to put up girders and just save the facade and just basically scrap everything behind it. Who knows? But what a damn shame! Because I got to tell you, as just a Montrealer / guy who used to live on the South Shore, I had real skin. I got memories and skin in that game. Yeah. And you know what? When that place is gone, they will never replace.
You can't. First of all, the craftsmanship, the skill, all of that,
Exactly.
that's gone. James Mennie, again, reporter, columnist, and editor at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you so much for taking the time, and happy Thanksgiving.
And to you. Toodaloo now.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.